Matt Vetter, welcome to the Real Build. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Bill. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah. This is a long time coming. I've been on your and Dylan's podcast, so now I got to return the favor. I'm excited to have you on, talk some construction today. You're doing some big things in the commercial world, so we're going to dive into that. Before we get started, though, let's talk about who you are. Who is Matt Vetter?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. So, professionally, I'm the president and majority owner of Schafer Construction. We are a smaller scale commercial design build firm based in Southeast Michigan, about 45 minutes north of Detroit. I'm a husband. I'm a father to three boys. This is that crazy time of year where we've got sports every single day and then some. So, my wife and I get to see each other for about 15 minutes in the evening, but we'll get through that, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. I mean, obviously, I always like to kind of dig deeper into just your background in the construction business too. So why construction? What led you to it? How'd you get involved in this business? Why not anything else? Why construction?
So I got my start in residential. I started building houses. Let me rephrase that. I started carrying lumber around residential sites when I was in my late teens. Worked for a small custom home builder. We did a lot of new builds, but primarily additions and renovations, high-end work in the Detroit metro markets. And I loved it. I instantly fell in love with it, man. I mean, I hear guys talking about kind of the nostalgia for the smell of sawdust, and it's true. Whenever we do a wood job, which is not often anymore, but it does happen from time to time, yeah. I make a point to go to those sites more frequently because it's just that visceral experience you get, right? But I just loved it. I loved everything about it. The guy I worked for originally, he was in his 40s when he started the company. He had served a lifetime sentence working for UPS as some analyst, some horribly boring job that he hated. And he jumped ship. He was, had that entrepreneurial fire. He wanted to do something different. And so he started this company. Now, truth be told, that he wasn't that good of a business owner. So things changed rather rapidly, but seeing him kind of pursuing that dream and doing it on his own and the freedoms he got, it really kind of sparked something into me. And I've never left. Obviously I'm now in the commercial sector. There's a lot of similarities between the two. There's a lot of differences, but it's been a long ride. I've been in the industry now for 22, 23 years, something like that. So it's a part of me. I love it. I love building. I love producing things. I love handing over keys, whether it was, the keys to somebody's new home or the keys to somebody's new business home. It really didn't make a difference to me, but it's just the process, the act involved and everything about it has just been a part of me for a long time.
When you say the nostalgia that brings you back, it is crazy how like you go on a job site, it does bring you back. You see just the smell of something too. I mean, it could be good or bad, obviously, you smell the smell of a porta potty or something. It's not going to bring you back too well, but
yeah, right.
But I mean, it's like, with me though too, there is that nostalgia. There is that it's a passion thing, and I fell in love with it too. I've said it's a love-hate thing for me too. Growing up being kind of the laborer and everything, you hated it, but then it taught you everything you needed to know to get to where I am today and have a lot more respect for this business. And it is a business that deserves respect too, because there's so many components that go into it. Hands down.
Oh, absolutely, man. My oldest son is 15 now, and I've told all three of my boys that you will work a manual labor job at some point in your early professional career, because whether you stay in construction or that sort of field, I don't really care, but it teaches you humility. It teaches you confidence, work ethic, everything you need to succeed in any industry. I think you can learn by a good start in humping lumber around.
Oh yeah. And like I said too, it's just if I would have not have done those things and had to wake up and work as a kid and have to, after football practice, go into work for my dad, I'd be a different person. I wouldn't have, it gives you a total respect for just work life, everything, especially doing the hard work, doing the manual labor, lifting things, having to, my dad used to make me, and I found out, obviously, today, knowing what I know, it was pointless. But back then, I was like, I didn't have a clue. I'm like, okay, maybe it needs to be. He used to always have me move the block from one pile and make a new pile on the other side of the job site. And now I realize how pointless that was, but he did it just to give me something to do. And on top of it, to build that, that basically respect and everything too, because it was hard labor. And, carrying those across the job site, putting them, restacking them. I was like, why the heck how did I not know that was pointless? But
yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many stacks of 2x4s I had to reorganize or sort, and it's the same sort of deal.
Make a pile. Yeah.
It's good for you though. And it's like you can use it as your gym too at that age, when you don't have to worry about eating right and living all that healthy. That was my gym, when I was in my teens and early 20s, just the virtue of doing that hard labor or that work kept me, pretty well ripped at most of the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially in the Florida sun down here too. It was, and the humidity it was brutal. So definitely have a respect for the business. That's for sure. So let's talk about your company, Schafer, and what you guys do. So what are some of the services you provide at your company?
So we specialize in what we have coined true design build. Okay. We build everything really outside of single family homes. We do a lot of commercial retail. We do a lot of industrial, light industrial. We used to do a lot of office work when there was still a lot of office work going on. We've kind of branched out in the last few years. We've taken on some municipal projects. Strategically speaking, that they're a good market to be in when and if the bottom drops out again. They still have money to spend. But yeah, we cover kind of a wide breadth of different building types and uses.
And going into it a little bit more too, what would you consider your ultimate specialty? What are you building more of? I looked at your website too. Obviously you're doing some creative, I looked at your LinkedIn as well and see all the stuff you got coming up. What was some of the major projects you've done thus far?
Yeah. So in the last few years, we've done some cool stuff. We built a big community center for a local municipality. It was about 45,000 square feet, wow. indoor basketball, volleyball courts with an elevated walking track around them. And then just, office and rental space, a fitness center. That was a really cool project. We finished that just about a year ago. It was 100% true design build. We did it. That was municipally funded, but we single sourced it. So we weren't bidding against, a large pool of people. It wasn't one of those situations. We took them literally from a napkin sketch. One afternoon, I got a call from the director of a local Parks and Rec facility. And he said, I've heard your name. I've heard what you guys do. We need help. We need some space. They were currently operating in this ramshackle little house, basically. And it didn't have any room. They couldn't do anything they needed to do. It was 1,500 square feet. And it just didn't work. And so we sat down and kind of, sketched out on paper what he needed, and then through our process and the way we approach the market, we kind of spun everything around, got budgets in place, got a design that fit their budget. And about a year later had through the worst of the worst shutdowns and pandemic nonsense we've ever had, we got them open on budget, on time. And it's a pretty cool thing to see. We're currently building more of a mixed use facility right now. It's for a local nonprofit. It's a great group of individuals, but it's 50,000 square feet. 2/3 of it is office space, technically, and the rest of it is more residential. We're still in that weird phase where we're not allowed to release who they are and talk too much about it, but it's same sort of process, right? It's true design build. They reached out to us with a problem, and we showed them how we can solve it, and we've walked them through the entire process from zero to where we are now. We'll be swinging steel as the date we're recording this. We're swinging steel next Monday, so it's pretty cool to see something like that come to fruition.
Let's go into that a little bit more. True design build in your process too, because I'm interested in that. Obviously, building 45,000, 50,000 square feet, there's a lot of process behind that. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of steps, hands down. I mean, I'm building residential, and the biggest house we have right now is 8,000 square feet. So I can only imagine 50,000 square feet and the steps you got to take, because there's so many in a residential build. I can only imagine what you're dealing with. So let's talk about that, the true design build and that aspect of things and what you're doing to stand out.
Yeah. So, I mean, to your point, yes, there's a lot of steps, whether it's 8,000 or 78,000. And they're not exactly the same, right? Because it's obviously very different product types. But the process, I think, is really very similar, right? It's just at scale. So, the way we approach it. So, true design build it's almost a theory, right? Design build has been popular in the commercial world, at least for 20 plus years, and it's been a catchphrase. It's something that guys put on their wall in their conference room. They talk about it once in a while, but nobody really does it. Most of the guys that claim design build, they still hard bid and low bid everything, just like the design bid guys do. Mm-hmm. What we do is a wholly different approach. It's a holistic approach to the market where the clients will hire us directly first. So we're the first on the site, first on the scene rather. We will then take all the programming efforts and all of the budgeting with the client directly. Then we go and we hire the right design team. So we hire the architect, we hire the engineers, we hire structural, civil, landscape design, everything that is needed, and we hold all of their contracts. So what that does is it allows us to back a project into a budget that works for the end user. What happens a lot in the commercial world anyways, with the old school way, the design bid build, is owner has a need, owner hires an architect, tells them what they want, and the architects are really good at designing pretty pictures, and functional pictures sometimes. But what architects aren't really good at is having a pulse on the construction markets, right? That's not their specialty. They shouldn't have to. But in the worst case, what happens is you go through this process, and it typically takes 3 months, sometimes 6 months, and they spit out this big stack of drawings, and it's a beautiful building by right. But then they go and they shop it to the market. They bid it out to the lowest bidder, and they come back and they say, well, yeah, we talked about an $8 million building. Our numbers came in at 16. Mm-hmm. And then what does the owner have to do, right? Either they swallow the cost and they hate it, or they just can't do it. And that's the worst thing. So now they've got this set of drawings that cost them 6 figures, and they can't do a damn thing with it. So we flip that script, and we meet with the client first. So we figure out, what are you comfortable spending? Let's be open and honest here. We're going to show you all of our numbers. We're 100% open book. I'm going to tell you our fee. I'm going to tell you what we're making. I'm going to tell you everything. So there's nothing to hide. So once you build that level of trust, now let's talk, what are you comfortable spending? We then take that number, whatever it may be, and we situate and organize a design team based around that. The best guy, the best architects for that product type and that size building, the best engineers and so on. And when we are kind of the puppeteer, the puppet master holding all the strings, we can make sure that while our design guys are designing, they're doing their job, we keep them on a tight leash almost to that budget. So we know how much creative latitude we can give our architect. We know how much latitude we can give the landscape designer, because we know what all this stuff costs. And we're constantly doing budgeting and estimating through this whole process, so that fast forward to the end of that ride, now we've got our set of drawings, we've got building permits in hand. the design fits all of the needs the owner wanted. And the best part about it is the budget fits. They can afford to build it. And there is the secret sauce. Like that's our specialty. That's what we do. And we do that by having this team-based approach, right? We will, a lot of times we'll pick our team right from the gate. So we'll pick our MEPs, our electricians, our plumbers, our mechanical guys, and we pick them based on project, but they have skin in the game in that, they're not bidding against 15 other electricians. They're the guy and they know that. So they're setting the number. It's got to be realistic. But we set those numbers in the beginning and then we have to design to them and they take part. So they will design their own scope of work. We've taken that as far as wrapping in our carpenters into that kind of core team. And it creates a team-based environment. It has a, open communication. I mean, there's a lot of risk. There's a ton of risk involved on our end to do that. And we charge accordingly for that. And that's kind of the value we bring to the market, but it's a very different approach that not, at least in our area here in Southeast Michigan, not a lot of builders do it. And most of them are afraid to even consider it, because there's this age-old philosophy that, all contractors are out to screw anybody with $1 in their pocket. And the only way you can build anything is low bid. And you go and you get 10 numbers, 100 numbers, whatever it is. And you pick the guy who's the dead last lowest, and then you just assemble a project like that. And, there's firms that do that really well. And I'm not saying they're wrong, or I'm not saying they're right or indifferent, but it's just a very different model than what we provide.
And I love your model because it's very similar to mine on the residential side too. And it's how you sell it too, in a lot of ways, and how you sell yourself, because there are a lot of people. I mean, I got a call yesterday for a guy that wants to build a big garage, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to bid this out. I have the plans, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's what your typical person going into it is. And if you sell it the way to where people want to work with you, like you're selling that full on experience from start to finish. We're going to make sure that we meet your budget by doing this, but we're going to be with you along for that whole entire ride. It's not just you give us a plan, we bid it, we'll build it, we're done, that's it, and on to the next one. You're selling that experience, and that's where you're standing out too, because it works in the residential world too. A lot of the clients I have right now are clients that, we're open book, and people know that going into it. But they go with us because they want that experience. They want the communication. They want to know what's going on. I mean, I had a guy email me today because I'm trying to set it up better, is with our, with Co-Construct and so on too, where they can have the app on their phone and kind of follow the progress and give more communication to the client as well, and updates and pictures. It's just so important, especially when they're spending so much money, and like you said, the common way has always been, bring me your plans, I'll bid it. Lowest bidder always wins. But you're switching that to let's focus on the experience this time. Let's do that for one, which is rare, but I think that's what's going to make you stand out more.
Absolutely. And same with you. I see what you're doing on, I follow you through social, and I see the way you're approaching it. And I think it is a very similar approach, different markets, obviously, but, we're creating a story with these people. Right. And that's the difference. So they are helping to create their own story. And at the end of it, they are happy with the product. They can look back on the whole experience and say, wow, that's like nothing we've ever done before. That's, everybody has horror stories about building and construction, and everybody hears them and whatnot. And we are fighting very hard to kind of eliminate those. Mm-hmm. And, there's something to be said for having a single point of contact from literal zero to finish. And in our case, that's typically me. And now as we're growing, it's, me and maybe one of my team members, but, once in the old way, the architect's done and he's out, and then the earth worker comes in. When he's done, he's gone, and so on and so forth down the line. And so there's it's not that there's a lack of accountability, but there's a lack of access, right? And with us, they have me soup to nuts. From they can call me the design phase, in the construction phase, warranty phase, whatever it may be, they always can get to me. And, you know, as long as I do my job and build that relationship and sell that story creation, then it all works really well.
Yeah, I relate quite a bit with that. And I'm even thinking, like, even with video too, like the guy that emailed me yesterday, do a YouTube, put a video on YouTube and say, hey, here's your progress of me walking through the house, showing exactly where we're at with things, what's to come and what's next, instead of just putting up photos and stuff. My mind's always spinning with ideas of how we can communicate better, how we can get the client and just be on the same page, have the client, because majority of the clients I deal with are 99% of them are here. Very seasonal area. So a lot of them have houses up north. This time of year, they all start going back up north because Florida gets really hot and the summers are a little bit muggy down here and so on. So a lot of them want to know what's going on, and it's just figuring out new ways to keep the communication going. So let's go into communication too. What are some of the ways that what are you doing that you're communicating better? And is there software you're using? Is there certain things you're doing to stand out?
So it's interesting that you brought that up about your client base, typically not being local. Excuse me. Typically ours is, right? Typically we're working for a company or an organization, and they are very, very local. However, in the recent past, we've teamed up with a couple different development groups. One of them's out of Utah, one of them's out of California, and we're building in Michigan. So we're kind of cutting our teeth on what you were just saying. Like, how do we convey accurately what the heck is going on here to our guys in California or our guys in Utah? Outside of those instances where we do have local folks, we're very big on in-person communication and when we can. From a software perspective, what we're doing right now is great, right? And this is how we've been communicating with our guys out west, primarily is through Zoom meetings, things like that. We use a project management app called FieldWire. It's kind of like a dumbed down version of Procore. Dumbed down in that it's not over encompassing. It doesn't include every possible thing a construction company does. It also doesn't cost, half of your annual budget of technology just for that. But it does what we need it to. It houses all of our drawings, all of our submittals, our contracts, our subcontracts. We're just barely scratching the surface on utilizing it to its fullest potential even. But as we continue to grow and proceed here, it's becoming more and more useful. The best thing that we've seen internally is it allows my guys in the field, our superintendents, to whip out their iPad or their laptop, wherever they're at on the site, and get me on the phone. And in real time, if there's an issue, they can be snapping pictures and circling things on the drawing, and it's popping up immediately on my screen. So no more is it, hey Matt, I'm in the room 211, blah, blah, blah. There's this and that going on. And I'm sitting there, flipping through my paper sheets, trying to figure out where the heck they're even at and what's going on. Well, now they can actually snap that picture and show me, and it's instantaneous. And they can, we can mark up the drawings back and forth. So it's been a real help to us. Outside of that, I'll be honest, we're not very tech savvy. As an industry in general, I think construction is pretty tech illiterate. There's some firms that are getting better. There's some firms leading the pack, but we certainly are not one of them. We kind of use what works, and it's a modified, if it's not broke, don't fix it type of approach, I think.
Yeah, see, that's with like me too. We have it. We have that system called Preconstruct. Actually, Builder Trend just bought them, but we went with Preconstruct because it was a little bit user friendly for residential contractors. And I'm pretty tapped. I mean, we haven't fully tapped into the platform. There's so much you can utilize on it, and a lot of it, like, you know, linking your QuickBooks, all this different stuff, but we haven't done it yet because it is like that approach. If it's not broke, don't fix it type thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, then I get the email last night of, hey, you know, you talked about the technology of us having an app and being able to follow the process. So I think that was the kick in the, you know what, to get me kind of, all right, now I got to dive deeper into this thing too, because people are starting to want that a little bit more. And these houses are getting bigger and more demanding and so on. So it is tough to implement something in because you're so used to the processes that you've had, and we've slowly implemented, you know, more and more into what we do. It's just, you know, we're so busy and we get so used to kind of that process of, you know, just how we've always done it. If somebody wants to see an update, maybe you FaceTime them or you just take a couple pictures and email it to them. So, you know, I get where you're coming from. And there's so much, like even on LinkedIn, I responded to somebody on this, it's crazy what's out there. And I'm seeing it now. I responded to this. They had this huge blueprint. They were walking through the blueprint, or like walking on top of it, so they could actually feel room sizes. And I'm like, It's a good concept, but not everybody has a warehouse to do that, you know? Right. And then one guy replied to me and said, hey, check out the software where you could actually take an iPad and then you can directionally with the iPad walk through the plan on the lot. And I was like, okay, now we're talking. That might be something I can look into and utilize. And then another guy responded and they were like, what if you can build that plan in the metaverse and actually have them go in with the goggles on and walk through their house prior to it being built and live in the house? And I said, okay, now we're getting even more crazy with the technology here. I don't even know how to do that. I don't even know how to handle it, but it's worth looking into. It's just crazy how technology and everything's building up. So let's talk about that. That's a whole nother topic. What are you seeing in commercial as far as technology and where that's going?
You know, it's encouraging because there's a lot coming out right now. And you know, a lot of it is like all the shiny new things, right? Yeah. You can't just grab onto everything because you'll go broke real fast. But there is some amazing construction tech coming onto the market, and we are just scratching the surface with it. But there's groups like Dusty Robotics has this really awesome layout robot, and they use it in residential just as much as commercial. Anywhere you have a hard floor, you know, a wood subfloor or a slab. And it's kind of a cool story. If you ever go to look it up, the owner, and I can't remember her name, the founder, she was looking to design a commercial industrial Roomba, right? The little robot vacuums. Mm-hmm. And then realized that, like, okay, these commercial guys don't really need that. That just doesn't work. Well, they took that platform, and that's kind of what it looks like, is a little vacuum, but it's got, I don't pretend to understand all the ins and outs, but somehow it talks to a total station that has all your plans loaded in it. And this little robot zips along the floor, and it's got an inkjet printer on its belly, and it prints out all of your layout. In a commercial setting like this 50,000 square foot building I mentioned earlier, I've talked with my carpenters. It's going to take them about 200 man hours to lay this whole thing out. And if you tag on $100 or $75 an hour, you know, that's a big chunk of change. Yeah. Well, with this robot, it'll lay out the whole 50,000 square foot thing in about 3 days. And it's, you know, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? But as long as your plans are accurate, this thing is dead nuts to the plans. So it's really neat to watch. And we're actually talking with those folks about trying to get in. They don't want to sell the units yet. They want, you know, kind of dealer agreements, which makes it more complicated, but it's really cool technology to see. That's the one we're closest to implementing right now, because it would just be such a huge time saver. And kind of what you were saying earlier about the layout. I've seen what you're talking about, where they have it in a dark warehouse and you can walk through it and see it on the floor. Well, at least with this, it's printed on the floor, right? And it's not like what we do now is archaic, right? We have two guys on their hands and knees crawling around with tape measures and chalk boxes and Aquanet hairspray. And, you know, inevitably somebody screws up, or somebody has, the line on the wrong, the track on the wrong side of the line or whatever. This thing just zips around and prints it all. So now you can take the owners in and at least show them on the floor, like, all right, you're standing in your new office. How's the view?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to see. There's a lot of stuff like that, I think, that's coming on. That's going to have a lot of quick and easy to see value. There's, the Boston Dynamics folks, they have some really sexy products, right? Like the dancing robots and Spot, the dog thing. We haven't found a use really for them other than the novelty. I think it'd be cool to have an electric dog walking around my job sites taking pictures, but a lot of bigger contractors, I think, are using those. A lot of big industrial guys where, you've got chaseways and areas that are not easily accessible by a normal sized human. You can send these robots in to take pictures and inspect and things. But just tech in general, it's just good to see it hitting our industry, because again, we're the last to adopt it. We're the hardest to convince that we need it. But, even 10, 15 years ago doing site work, you never saw total stations on site. You never saw guys with GPS on their dozers, or not very often. Now costs have come down and it's commonplace. I mean, you go on our job sites and it's not robotic. I mean, we still have humans operating them, but when you can tag your dozer into a satellite and go grade a 10-acre parcel to a 1/10 of an inch, that's pretty impressive when, and the blade's moving for you. You got to be there. You got to make sure, it doesn't go haywire, but it's just cool stuff like that, I think, is really changing the face of what we do every day.
It is good to see the change start happening, because that's what I was going to say as well. Like, we are the last to adapt to anything. It's just still it's pretty much the last industry where you still need people. And I think you're always going to need people, especially down here. I thought about that, because even with modular builds, stuff like that, we can't really do that here because everything's concrete block construction. You actually need the laborers. You need the everybody here to kind of bring these things together, because all the codes and everything we deal with and face. But there is, to see more technology and easier pathways to doing it, like that robot you just talked about, is awesome. Because I mean, my framers are on their hands and knees with chalk lines, marking up the floors and doing that, when you can just send a robot in to do it. That would be unbelievable. I'm sure it needs a lot of ink cartridges, but other than that, it's that's an amazing idea too. And I hope to see that take shape too, because that's not eliminating the framers, that's just eliminating part of their job. So, which it's beneficial to the builder, maybe not as much to the framer money wise, but the framer can always make up money in their framing, or whatever they do. So it's good to see. And with these software platforms, like I said, just was talking about, I think innovation's going to get better on like the Co-Constructs, or the one you're using, or the Procures, or I think they need to become simpler, in my opinion, more user friendly. I am yet to see one that is. Even Co-Construct, which I thought was user friendly, it still takes me some figuring out. And us in this business, we don't always have the time to sit and figure out things, because we're constantly moving. So I think they need to hire somebody that was, a lot of guys, not saying they don't have people that were in construction, but they need more, I guess, to implement this technology, because that's one of my biggest issues, is having the time to sit down and figure out, okay, how do we get this to work? How do I get this app on this phone? How do I do, a lot of it I have, and then you got to do the training calls. And do I have time to sit down with somebody and do a full on training call? No. Do I have time to send the girl in my office to do it? No, she's busy as well. So, I think things are going to be on the bright side of that, though. And the more we all kind of give our opinions and so on, I think I had one of the head guys at Co-Construct on my podcast. It was a while ago. I should get him back on and see what updates they've done. But, I told him that. I was like, that was one of my biggest issues with your software so far. And he's like, yeah, we're working on it. We like to hear the opinions and so on of the contractors. So it's always good to see the technology in the world. One thing I saw on your website, and we'll get into your core values here, but I saw your hashtag build better. I want to, obviously you've explained what you're doing and so on, but what's that mean to you? Build better, that hashtag, because it was right on there, right in your face. So what's the meaning?
Yeah, so that was kind of a term that I coined a few years back, and it was to represent. It represents our core values as a package, right? When you take our core values and you throw them into the blender and you come out with this soup that is construction, that's how we build better. It's through our culture, it's through our values, and it represents everything we do. We build better buildings, we build better teams, we build better communities, and so on and so on. And it's kind of it almost takes our 5 core values and kind of squeezes them into one really easy to palate hashtag. And we use it everywhere now. It's on everything we do. It's on everything we touch. And it's part marketing, it's part culture. But it's really just the reality of the way we operate. And it's what I mentioned, and how I explained it earlier, is we do things differently in order to make it a better experience for the client, for the end user. And we can promise that we are going to build better than the guy down the street. And here's how we do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love that too, because I was reading over your core values, and I love your core values too. I was looking at them. I'm like, these are actually really good. So we'll get into that too. But it can mean a lot. It has a lot of meaning to it too. As far as but it stood out. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and going about being the best builder you can be, because having that attitude in this business, I don't want to say it's rare, but it is a business of just hopefully I can bid this job, get it, and then move on to the next. And that's what this show is all about. Is I always talk about it as, what can we do as contractors to go above and beyond? What are those things that nobody else is really doing and implementing into their business that we can do better? And I'm always in search for that. And everybody I have on this show, they're doing something, and there's always something. And obviously I've heard, talking to you today too, with just doing the things you're doing in commercial, from start to finish, sitting down with the client, implementing a strategy, implementing a budget, then going to the architect, finding the right architect, finding the right subcontractors that can get you to that budget, that still do quality of work, and then going to the building stage. That's where you're building better. And I commend you for that too, because there's not a lot of contractors that are willing to do that. So I got a lot of respect for you for that.
Well, thank you. And the feeling's mutual. And, when I think it was when you were on our podcast, we talked about, referral business and repeat business. In our world, there is repeat business. There are always, additions to be put onto buildings we built or renovations, things like that. But typically speaking, especially when you're talking about municipal work or smaller companies, this 50,000 square foot building we're in the middle of right now, they're not going to build another thing probably in my career, right? They won't. However, their friends will, their neighbors will, their associates will. And that's where that comes in, right? We are at this point, we're 90% either referral based from repeat clients or working for repeat clients again. And that's the key, right? Because there's, especially in a market like this, there's projects out there, you can find them, you can build all the dog houses you want, but we're looking for a certain subsect of the market. We want to build interesting projects, right? I spent a decade of my life building quick serve pizza franchise restaurants across the country. And I made a ton of money doing it. I had a lot of fun, but you don't get any value out of it, right? When they open up and they start slinging pizzas out the door, it's like, okay, great, on to the next one. When you provide somebody with a new headquarters or a new house, right? You get that intrinsic value because you know the value that person is going to glean out of the building that they're now headquartered in or living in, whatever the case may be. And, you know, that to us, like that's what kind of makes us tick, you know, so that's why we build better. And, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we started using Build Better long before our current administration started their little tag phrase that I won't even say it. Because I've had people call me and say, yo, you know, Matt, you might want to change that because it sounds a lot like his thing. And I said, no, screw that. This is mine. This is ours. It's our team. When in 2 years, when things change again, you'll remember Build Better. You won't remember the other one. So
yeah. That is true. That is true. And I mean, that what you just said, though, it is what it's all about too, is just seeing that final product and seeing that reaction to that final product is what it's all about too. And I was actually interviewed recently by a magazine, and I was talking to her, and she's like, what overall is your, you know, with the outcome and what you do, you know, what do you love best about what you do, basically? And I go, not sound cliche or whatever, but it's the reaction of the people with the final product and seeing how happy they are once we deliver that product. We know we're going to have warranty stuff and stuff like that, but it's continuing the relationship with them too. I just went to dinner with a client last weekend and had a full-on conversation. It wasn't just about business. There was, you know, like a friendship, and that's turning these clients into friends, not just business, you know, not just doing business with them, but creating friendships with them too. And being able, I got clients coming to my wedding, you know, that we built houses for too. It's just, when you get to that level with your client, it's a whole different world. And yeah, you're going to have those little bumps and questions, but when you treat it like a friendship too, and go in, as long as you, let me backtrack, as long as you take care of them, that's what's going to keep things going. Because a lot of builders, you know, it's just when somebody, like, you know, the email I got that I keep bringing up, it's just on the top of my head because I got to answer it right after this. But you know, I'm going to call them and I'm going to say, you know, what can I do to keep you in the loop more? What do you want? You know, if you're requesting pictures every 2 weeks, I'm not going to do that because there's not enough to see in every 2 weeks, you know, but if it's pictures as the progress goes on, we get drywall up, we get trim up, we get, you know, the cabinets, and I'm happy to do that for you. You want video? I'll do a video. What do you want me to do? That's that process, that communication that most people aren't willing to do because they say they don't have time. They don't need, you know, I don't have time to do all that. I just want to get the house done, move on to the next. That's where you're going wrong.
Absolutely. You know, and time is what you make it, right? One of, I think, our collective mentors, Ed Milet, has a quote that I have on my wall, and it's procrastination is a thief and fear is a liar. And that's how I've approached everything I'm doing the last 5 years. And you make time. You have to make time for your clients. You have to make time for your family. You have to make time for yourself. Time's there, and it is what you make of it. And, you know, to like, you could just touch them back to see the look on someone's face when you hand them the keys to their brand new home. You know, that's a good feeling inside. To when I go back to that community center and I see, you know, 60 some odd kids playing basketball on the court that I built, that's a cool feeling, right? Because it's not transactional. It's relationship based. We could make money, right? We're all relatively smart guys. You know, we hang in the same kind of global circles. We could go do a lot of things with a lot less stress than construction and probably make more money if we really wanted to. But the reality is it's that kind of gut check when you hand over the keys to the house or the building or whatever it is that makes it worth it to me.
Yeah, I think we're probably in one of the most stressful businesses you can possibly be in. You know, I think I see a new gray hair daily. So
yeah,
it
doesn't stop. So.
No, and it can be, especially in the world today with the economy the way it is, and the supply chain and all that. It's constantly a pivot. What can we do to keep these jobs moving? And that's always top of mind is, who do I need to hire? What do I need to do? We have those relationships with certain vendors. If there's a sub that's not, producing, okay, who can we find? Because the state of Florida right now, there's a lot of people that moved here, and there's a lot of people opening up businesses. So there's always opportunity to find somebody else. Like I just found another tile person. They've been phenomenal, because my last tile guy's price kept going up and up. A lot of it was greed. And I saw that too. There's no reason for it. So, but he's busy. And it's just being able to maneuver for your client is what you have to do on a consistent basis. And I don't think my clients know that enough, and I'm always constantly reminding them when I call them and I say, hey, this was priced here. I got you at this price. That's the open book strategy too. I'm trying to do whatever it takes to help you out. Yes, whatever, the more it's charged, we make money, but I have a conscience. I want you to be happy, and kind of putting that out there and talking to them about it. It goes such a long way, because they're like, oh, thank you, or just meeting them in person. If they got a problem with a closet, okay, let's go to a different closet company, have a discussion with them, see if you like them better. It's not, we like to use our certain subs. We always will, but if one's slack and not performing, I'm willing to kind of go to another one, but I need to make sure they check out and they're doing good work first before I even put them on a job. I'm not looking for the cheapest price either. I just hired another pool contractor that was twice the price of my other pool contractor, but I've seen their work. And for this specific pool, I need them because I know they do phenomenal work. And I told the client that, I go, you're going to end up paying double for this company. But I've seen their work. I've seen 2 pools, and I got another superintendent that works for another builder that told me it's the best pool contractor he's ever dealt with. So that's why I'm hiring him. If you're okay with that. No, yeah, sure. Go right ahead. So
it's I mean, we've never talked about fee structure between you and I, but like we're earning what we're charging.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to tell everybody, we will not be the cheapest guys on the block. And I don't want to be.
That's
a different market, right? That's a different way of approaching it. And if you want to do that, go have at it. That's not us. And, we're going to provide you the ultimate value for what you're paying. I can guarantee that. I can guarantee that the value we bring will way outpace our fee, but we won't be the cheapest guys around. And our trade partners, our subs that we bring into the mix won't be the cheapest guys around either. But when your project's done, rather, you're going to have a quality building. You have the experience that we've talked about today, and you have that, that know-how that knowledge that if anything ever goes wrong, you've got this entire team, right? We always kind of joke that because in commercial, everything's a 12-month warranty, and then don't call me. Well, that's garbage, right? We offer a 1-year lifetime warranty, and that's really how we approach it, right? We have, it's construction, it's buildings. There's things in motion. It's like engines, right? Stuff's going to happen. Stuff's going to go wrong. We are the guys that you can call in 5 years, and I may not do it for free. I'm not an idiot, and you're not going to take advantage of us. But if you call me and say, hey, my AC's down or whatever it may be, I am the guy that will go out and find someone and get them there and get it fixed. Right. And you can always rely on us, on my team, to do that for you. And that's where, that's just another market difference. I think that it sounds like you guys do, that we do, and it sets us apart, and it creates the experience. We keep going back to experience and story. And, it's cliche in a way, but it's really not when you do it right, when you're actually creating a positive experience for the end user, and it's not just a transaction.
Yeah, and what you just said, I mean, it's a 1-year lifetime warranty, and a lot of builders don't know after the 1 year they're done, or even during the 1 year they're done. For some of them, some cases. But in going back to the quality, what you said, we're not the cheapest. I tell people that we're not the most expensive. We're probably right in the middle, and we're going to do a quality job that's going to blow anybody away, even the higher price guy. I'm sure of it too. But it's even with the warranty after the fact, that's how I sell ourselves too, is, Yeah, we're willing to help you out if your AC goes down, whatever. I've sent AC companies over, even when the one that installed it couldn't get there. I have a friend that does AC. I'm like, hey, I'm going to call him, see if he can get over there sooner. Having those connections and everything, but even stuff, and I've talked about this in the past too, stuff that should not have happened, we're willing to go back and fix it. If a guy's pool tile fell off his pool wall after 2 years after he's out of warranty, I had my pool guy go back there and fix it. And I said, you're not charging anything because that shouldn't happen. The stuff that shouldn't happen, we're willing to take care of it when most builders won't. And like I've told this story before, a plumbing leak happened, drywall screw PEX pipe was just kind of loose in the wall. It was supposed to be against the stud. It wasn't. Toilet would flush, would rub against that screw, pipe burst, caused a lot of issues. Well, we cut up on the wall, figured that out. That was the problem. Called my plumber. He admitted it was the problem, and it was his fault, but he didn't say it was him, the specific plumber that was there. And anyway, long story short, we paid for everything, fixed everything, got it all handled for that customer. Well, that customer's referred two people to me. So, and one of them being a 5,200 square foot house. So it's just doing those things that you don't always want to do is going to put you in a better position later in the future. Andy Frisella told me, he answered one of my questions one day on this was a couple of years ago, but time's flying. But one of his answers to my question at the time, he goes, just play the long-term game, always focus, especially in your business, focus on the long-term game. And that stuck with me since that day. That's been my focus 100%, is just playing that long-term game, taking care of everybody that comes across my path. And it's going to benefit me into the future, because construction's a future business, big time. We're dealing with now, and we're dealing with everything that's going to happen 10 years from now too. So
absolutely. And you have to be in it for the long game, right? The TikTok all-stars and the Bitcoin billionaires, that's cool and all. If you can do that, more power to you, but it's very rare, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're building one-offs and it's just, I'm going to build you a pizza place and I'll never hear from you again, ever. I don't know. In my mind, that's a crappy way to go about it. It's a crappy way to live. I'm doing these relationship-based programs where I may build you the building now, and I may not build you anything else ever, but I know that even in 10 years, we're still going to be friends, and your friends are still going to be coming to me, and their friends are going to be coming to me. And it's self-preservation too, especially now as our internal team is growing. I look at it as I'm the guy that's responsible now for putting food on these plates. And I think about, that's what keeps me up at night, right? I count all my employees, I count every single member of their family, and I start doing the math, and it's like, holy cow. All right. I have to be providing for these people so they can eat, they can feed their kids. So now what do I do? Now, how do I plan the next 10 years, next 20 years, next 30 years, so that I know that through this whole process, my people are eating, figuratively. But there's guys who do it, just the one-offs, and they bang them out and they're gone. And as long as you can keep up that volume, I guess, sure, it works. But what happens when times get tough again? And if you don't have relationships to fall back on, and those preset conditions where these people know you, they like you, they trust you already. I don't know. I don't want to be in that position.
No. And most of the time, it doesn't end up working out when you're in that position, right. And you end up gone too. And right. How many builders do you see come and go too? I've been doing this long enough to kind of see the ones that are, there, they pump out for the lowest price as many homes as they can, and they end up getting bit and then end up getting lawsuits and all that. And then they end up going somewhere else in the state of Florida and doing the same thing. So it's just, it's happened multiple times in my area, and it's happening now. I mean, times were busy, and now things are going to slow down, I think. And the guys that were giving things away, it's rob Peter, pay Paul. So you're taking from the front end to get the back end going, and somebody's going to end up getting burnt in the end, pretty much. So It always happens that way, unfortunately, but that's why we're doing this podcast, to prevent people from doing that. So
there you go.
Yeah. So we've been, I want to get in before we get going here, because I know you got to go, is some personal questions to wrap this up. One of the questions I always ask everybody is, what about you personally? You're building an amazing company that continues to grow each and every day. What lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business or lives that can help us grow?
The biggest lesson I've learned, and I actually read it this morning in text form, and it made perfect sense to me. And it was, you can't let doubt, fear, and worry take over and rule how you proceed, right? If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to do anything, whether it's construction or owning a bakery or owning a car shop, you got to get that stuff out of your head, because it's like the analogy they listed was, would you stand around all day beating your head with a rock because you were afraid of something falling out of the sky and hitting you one day down in the future? No, of course not. Of course you won't. So why would you let doubt, fear, and worry occupy your very precious mental real estate now because of the if come, right? And most of the bad stuff that you think about, the worst and the worst, usually probably doesn't happen ever. So you got to have a positive mindset, but you got to be a risk taker in this world, in this industry especially. And don't wait. You know, if I had started operating the way I operate now, if I had started 20 years ago when I started in construction, man, I can't fathom where I'd be. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad for the bumps and the bruises I took along the way, because I've learned, right? I learned the hard knock way of what to do and what not to do. I've seen it all, but I waited until I was, more comfortable and more ready to take that final biggest leap. And maybe it wasn't the final leap. Let me rephrase that. The next biggest leap, right? There will be the next one that comes down the pipe, but you got to go through it with a clear, positive mindset and be looking towards the future always, and just take the leap once in a while.
And I love that, because I needed that. I think we all need that, because we all, especially in the world today, we always have our doubts, our worries, and our fears. I mean, you turn on the news and it's just it's just horrible. It's a bloodbath. It's just like crazy how everything is just so negative, and just so turns your mind to the worst, in the worst case scenario. And I've turned it off. I've tried getting rid of it on Instagram too, just so I don't, because it takes away your focus. Yeah, I care as an American and so on too. I care about what's going on in this country, and we all should too. And that we should do our part as much as we possibly can. But we all need to remain focused on our lives too, and our businesses, and can't let the fear of everything going on outside of what we do take control of us personally. And we all struggle with that. I admit I struggle with it too. And it kind of, because it is worrisome when you're hearing the doom and gloom of a recession and all that too. And I was actually talking with Brian Hess about this, who you might know. He's been on my podcast too, and personal coach. And he was saying, just be prepared, move forward, keep doing what you can as the time comes to have a plan. And then, just keep your progress going, whatever you have, try and get as much business as possible going, but keep your head up throughout it too. And don't change your course unless you truly have to when the time comes. But right now we just need to be focused, and on your marketing too. When everybody else is in fear, go all in. I mean, we've heard that how many times through Arte too. And that's what I'm going to start doing too. While everybody's kind of pulling back, I'm going to go all in. There's the marketing budget. Let's go. It's game time. Like, we can still get attention on us and so on too. I mean, that's what I did when COVID hit, and just constant videos and all that. And now we have, more jobs than we've ever had before. So it's just, I love that. You can't live in fear. And I needed that personally. So thank you.
Hey, I mean, in the entrepreneurial space, especially the Arte guys, we all took the red pill a long, long time ago. And you have to be aware, like you said, but you can't focus on it, because you still have all those mouths to feed. And you nailed it. Like, now is the time to put your foot on the gas And that's what we're doing. We have posted now our 2 best years in a row with phenomenal growth. And it started in the worst anyone could imagine, right? We had projects with the doors locked because we couldn't legally go and work on them anymore. Mm. But that's when, instead of going home and putting our feet up and eating Cheetos and getting, fat, dumb, and happy, we all put our heads together. And that's when our marketing started churning, and we started getting more active on social, and we started, targeting different markets and reading books and doing the development side of it. And, it's a mindset for sure. But when everyone else is slowing down and getting scared and starting to, peek out from the closed door, that's when I'm going to kick the damn door open. We're not slowing down. I'm looking for that 10-year, 20-year, 30-year picture, and I know how we're going to get there.
And that goes back to playing the long term. That's hands down right there, what you said. It's just so important, because so many people just sit in fear. I mean, I got customers now that we're on the brink of contracts, and they're fearing because the stock market, like I said, you're seeing red everywhere. I mean, it's crypto, stocks, everything. And how many times have we seen that cycle of the stock market pulling back, everybody freaking out, it's the end of the world, so on, and we're done. And yeah, there's a lot of big things, if you follow the economics behind everything too, going on with the dollar and so on too. But, I'm just going to keep moving forward. So are you. That's what all we can do in life. And just do what we can to take care of us, our families, and say your prayers, put in God's hand, and keep moving forward. So, next question before we get going here is, most people talk about your past. Let's talk about your future. Where will we see Matt in the future? Who will you be 10, 15, 20 years?
I want to be my potential. Yeah. That's where I want to be. I want to be, we've heard Ed talk about it. I want to be, when I'm laying on my deathbed, and I float up to the pearly gates, hopefully, or maybe down below, who knows. I want to meet my potential self and shake his hand and say, we're the same dude, from all aspects, personal life, professional life, the building company, I've got massive targets. I've literally, in the last few months, I've 10x'd my previous goals, because nice. I decided it was too easy. It was too attainable, right where we had it. And so we're going to be growing leaps and bounds. We're building our team. We're adding to our repertoire of what we can build and how we can do it. My wife and I are starting some side gigs. We're looking at some rental properties and things like that down in closer to your neck of the woods, a little bit closer anyways. So yeah, I mean, in 10 years, I'll be a wholly different person in a good way.
Love it. Yeah. And if you come down this way, let me know. That's for sure.
I will do.
And I have no doubt you're going to get there, man. You're definitely doing some big things. I've been watching you and on social and everything. So commend you for that for sure too. And I have no doubt that you're going to make those goals. Last question, what this show's all about. What exactly do people need to look for when building their next commercial project, and why should they choose Matt Vetter as their builder of choice?
You need to look for a team that you gel with, regardless of it's me or somebody else. The buildings we're building, they're no small dollar ticket, right? I mean, it's a lot of money. It's real dollars we're talking about here. And if you're going to invest that sort of money, let alone all the time and the stress of building, you need to be in a team that you fit well with. And I feel that's why you should be on my team, because we're really good at what we do, right? We're humble, but we're confident. We build better, right? It's just that, plain and simple. We will take the lion's share of the stress off of your plate and give you the best experience possible. But if it's not me, if it's not my team, find somebody else that you gel with. Because if you don't have some sort of relationship, it's not worth the stress. It's just not.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's all about the relationship too, because you got to be on the same page with whoever you hire, you work with, and so on too. And And we can go into a whole nother topic. I think that's why with like social media, it's so important to me too, is because people see my personality and whether they're going to work with me or not right off the bat too. But then having those initial meetings and getting to know each other and kind of feeling, and it's with the builders too. I mean, it's important for us to mesh with the customer, and not a lot of builders take that in consideration because they just want the job. But I've turned down jobs because I've learned, if I'm not going to click with you, the rest of my team's not going to click with you, and it's not going to be a good experience. So that relationship has to be good off the bat, and I have to vibe with them. And if I don't, I ain't sending them with everybody else too. So
absolutely. Yeah. I want to have fun too. Yeah. Right. Like I said, you and I could go do anything. We could go sell widgets, make a bunch of money. I want to have fun doing what I'm doing. And if I can't guarantee myself that, call it selfish, call it what we want, but I come first. If it's not going to be fun for me, same thing you just said, I'll walk away in a heartbeat.
Yeah. It's not worth it, just because the amount of aggravation you're going to get is just not worth the time. And we spend too much time with a lot of these customers too, and to have a bad relationship and end up with a bad result, it's just not worth the time. So
we've only got so many trips around the sun, right? I want to make the most of it.
Yeah, I highly agree. So, Matt, this has been awesome, man. Covered a lot of stuff. You and I can probably go on for hours. I say that to a lot of my guests, but we can definitely talk construction for hours. So, unfortunately, people can't listen for hours. So, I'll have to have you on again too. Where can people find and connect with you?
So, I'm most active on LinkedIn, Matt Vetter, Schafer Construction. But to be honest, we post the same thing. I'm Matt Vetter on all the platforms, but LinkedIn is by far the most active. Websites, schaferconstruction.net. You can find me through all those channels pretty easily.
And then the podcast?
Yeah, the podcast is the Construction Corner. I co-host with my good friend Dylan Mitchell. We record, same topics all around the construction industry. We've had you on. We've had a lot of cool guests on. So give us a spin.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate your time today. This has been great. And we'll definitely have to get together again on this in the future and talk some more and see how everything pans out here coming up.
Absolutely, future. Bill. Thank you for having me on, man. It's been fun.
Awesome. So everybody listening, you know the routine. Please like, share, comment, and spread this podcast. Like I always ask, 5-star reviews only are allowed. So take the time to do it. And I will see you guys on the next episode.